This video was produced by the UCD Maths Support Centre in conjunction with the UCD Access Centre. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the unit circle and this very important cast circle that we see down here. So the unit circle is made up of a couple facts. It has a radius of 1 and is centered at the point 0, 0. So this point here is 0, 0. And if we draw this triangle that we have here, we know that its hypotenuse is of length 1, and we have our vertical height y and our horizontal length x. And since this is a right angle triangle, we can use sine, cos, and tan to write that sine is y over 1, so sine is just y, cosine theta is just x, and tan theta is y over x, which, as we know, as we've learned before, is the same as sine over cos. Now you'll have seen in your course this cast circle, and what you remember is that C means that cos is positive in this quadrant, A stands for all being positive, S stands for sine being positive, and T stands for tan being positive. The reason that is if you look over here on the right, I've drawn sine theta and cosine theta. And if we look at our sine theta graph, we can see that between 0 degrees and 180 degrees, the graph of sine theta is above the y-axis. So in this area here, sine is positive. It's up here in the plus on our y-axis. So between 0 and 180 degrees, sine is positive. So we have sine equals plus in these two areas. We can see then that in between 180 degrees and 360 degrees, sine changes to a negative y value. So we have that sine theta is negative in these two areas. Next, if we look at our cosine theta graph down here, we have this graph, and we can see similarly that between minus 90 degrees and plus 90 degrees, we have that cosine is positive, so it's in a positive y here. Between minus 90 degrees, which is the same as 270, so cosine is positive down here and up here. And we see that between 90 degrees and 270 degrees, cosine is negative. So negative here and here in the second quadrant and third quadrant. So then all we need to do is to use this rule up here, that tan is sine divided by cos, to work out where tan is positive and negative. We see that in the first quadrant, where we have this A, tan is going to be a positive number, sine, divided by a positive number again in cosine, which yields a positive result. So sine, cos, and tan are all positive in the first quadrant. In the second quadrant, sine is positive, but cosine is negative this time, so tan will be a positive number divided by a negative number, which gives you a negative number, meaning the only positive trigonometric function in this quadrant is sine. And it's a similar story for the final two quadrants. In the third, sine and cosine are both negative, and if you have a negative number divided by a negative number, you end up with a positive number. So tan is the only positive value in the third, and in the fourth, sine is negative, cosine is positive, tan would be a negative divided by a positive, which gives us a negative answer. So cosine is our only positive function down here. And that explains where the cast circle comes from that we'll be using in many questions that involve trigonometric equations and trigonometric expressions.